When you are an average head coach or an average employee and something's not going right and management feels like they need to shake things up, you're the first person to get out of there. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate you for tuning in today. This is the show that values time. I value mine. You should value yours. Let's get started. So, today there's two things I want to talk about. And they kind of all run the same subject, right? I'm going to talk to you about greatness, and I'm going to talk to you about average. Let's talk about average first. Frank Vogel is expected to be dismissed and or fired, however you want to say that, by the Lakers. He will no longer be the coach. And a lot of people are coming out saying, oh, he's being used as the scapegoat. It wasn't his fault. And all of those things could be true. But here's the problem with the real world. Is just because it's true does not mean it's going to change your circumstances. Just because it's true does not mean that it's going to be fair. This is reality, unfortunately. So Frank Vogel is living the life of an average head coach or an average employee. When you are an average head coach or an average employee and something's not going right and management feels like they need to shake things up, you're the first person to get out of there. They're not getting rid of LeBron. They're not getting rid of Anthony Davis. There's greatness there. If you want to go with an example of him, Frank Vogel, versus other head coaches who are considered great. Greg Popovich is considered the greatest coach of all time. He's had multiple losing seasons since losing Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili. San Antonio's not just kicking him out the door because Greg Popovich has greatness attached to his name. He is a great employee, despite recent results. If you look at other coaches who are considered to be great, Doc Rivers has a great reputation amongst the league. He is considered to be a great head coach, a great leader, a great players coach, all that stuff. Like, great is attached to his name. Even if he is to be fired or let go by a team, which he has, he is almost immediately picked back up because other people think he's great. Frank Vogel is not going to be immediately picked back up by somebody if he is let go as the Lakers head coach. Hell, when he got the Lakers head coach job, it was a surprise to people. They're like, Frank Vogel? You had the chance to get Ty Lue or Jason Kidd or some of these other guys, and it was like, you got Frank Vogel? It was a weird pick, right? Like, every now and again we get those. We get you get head scratchers as head coach picks. And sometimes it works out. And Frank Vogel could argue it worked out. 3 seasons, he won a title, got to the playoffs, and this season was a disaster. So 2 out of 3 seasons, made the playoffs, and he got a title in there. That's not a bad 3-year run as a head coach. It's probably one of the more productive 3-year runs as a head coach for someone to be fired after 3 seasons. Now I'm wondering, is LeBron still wanting Frank to get his respect? When you are an average employee, when you are, and I'm not trying to say this in an offensive way to Frank, but is he one of your top 10 NBA head coaches? We don't think he's one of the bottom 10 head coaches. We think Frank can coach. But if you're taking a list of your top coaches every single year, you're going to get 10 to 15 names, and then you're going to start talking about Frank Vogel. That puts him in the average class of the profession that he's in. Now, that's better than most people because he is average at one of the top 1% professions in the world. There's only 30 NBA head coaching jobs. So to be average in that, you're pretty high on the average scale, but you're still average. Russ is going to get another chance. Why? Not just because of his contract, but there is greatness attached to Russell Westbrook, despite how he played this season, that is going to make somebody else want to give him a chance. Russ has had struggles coming into the season at certain points with certain teams. And he has still been given additional chances because he has greatness. He is not an average point guard. He is not an average NBA player. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The difference between greatness and average. If you are average, like Frank Vogel, it's easier to kick you out the door than even underperforming greatness like Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Let's transition to greatness. Tiger Woods and his career is the epitome of greatness. Tiger Woods, if you are under the age of 30, I'm in this group. If you are under the age of 30, Tiger Woods is the most polarizing athlete for his sport that you have ever seen in your life. And I could really make the argument, if you're under the age of 50, this also qualifies. The only other guy who's close in terms of how polarizing he is for his sport is how Mike is for basketball. Tom is not this polarizing for football. Alexander Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby were not this polarizing for hockey. Mike Trout is not this for baseball or Ohtani. Tiger Woods to golf is the most polarizing athlete we've ever seen. National media, and even small shows like mine, we don't even talk golf. You couldn't name 10 golfers consistently. But you know when Tiger's playing. The Masters, one of the most decorated sporting events in the history of sports. It's the Masters. And we don't talk about it and the biggest, not that we don't talk about it, but the biggest talking point is going to be Tiger Woods. It's not, and Tiger Woods isn't a top 5, top 10 golfer right now. Now, he has that greatness in him. We saw this last year where he came back and he won. Because there is great when you reach the peaks and the pinnacles that Tiger hit during his career. When you reach into some of that greatness and you tap into it just for a day or just for a weekend, which he can do from time to time. He used to be able to do it every single day, day in, day out. He's not that anymore. But he can reach those kind of great levels, and he can still win a tournament. But he's at the Masters, where realistically, he has no reason to be considered one of the top 5 to top 10 guys to win. And yet, if you look at talking points, Tiger's the number 1 talking point. If you look at betting in Vegas, Tiger's the most betted on golfer. How do you get there? Because Tiger Woods is the epitome of greatness. There's nothing average about Tiger. There is nothing on the fence about Tiger. Tiger is greatness walking around at any point, any given time. And that's without him being nearly as great as he was at his peak. We aren't talking about golf. And it's unfortunate. Like, the sport, the traction, the way that it moves, the way that it's talked about, the way that it's discussed, bet on everything, primarily still flows through one guy who hasn't been that guy in a decade. Tiger used to be, well, when you see a golf tournament, Tiger or the field. That hasn't been a real discussion in 10 years. Except any single time Tiger picks up a golf club, he's still Tiger Woods. He is still the most polarizing athlete for his sport compared to any of the others. You think that, like, the way the media talks about LeBron on a daily basis, even if his teams are having struggling seasons, that's recency bias. Think about that. This is LeBron. LeBron missed the playoffs this year, and LeBron in his first year with the Lakers missed the playoffs. Otherwise, LeBron went to 9 consecutive NBA finals, 10 out of 11 years. LeBron was always involved with what the NBA was doing at the very end of its season. And he's still not as polarizing as Tiger is for golf. Like I said, national media, what are they going to talk about? Tiger. Who are people betting on in Vegas? Tiger. He moves the needle despite a decade being removed from what his dominance was. That's the difference between average and greatness.